Thank you so much. Okay. Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
Do we need a mic? Do we need a mic here? Or? No. Is there anybody doing like a kid's story? Or? Okay.
Dari, do you want to join us? I don't know why this is Italian.
Hold on, let me test the lectern mic real quick. Test.
Good morning, you lovely, kind, generous people. I'm Carrie, and I'm stepping in for Reverend Joanna today because she is under the weather. Please send her prayers and thoughts and lots of healing vibes. Unitarian Universalism is unambiguously, unapologetically progressive. The church affirms the inherent worth and dignity of all people through anti-racism, anti-oppression, supporting the LGBTQIA community, working for reproductive justice, voting rights, and other issues as needed. We seek to build beloved community not only here, but in our surrounding area. And we bring a spirit of joy to it all. We are in the season of Advent right now. This month, so we will begin by lighting our Advent wreath. As Unitarian Universalists, Advent asks, what are we waiting for and preparing for in our own lives and in the life of the world? In this season of long nights, Advent invites us to explore the themes of hope, of peace, joy, and love. On this fourth and final Sunday of Advent, we light a candle for love. As Universalist George Dibnell preached, preach the universal and everlasting gospel of boundless, universal love for the entire human race, without exception. Proclaim and publish to all the people of the world a universal gospel that shall restore, in time, all human species. The inner spirit makes us feel that behind every appearance of diversity, there is an interdependent unity of all things. How are you extending love this season? May the light of this candle help us bring more love into the world. It's so good to be here with you. Please rise in body and spirit for our opening hymn, Do You Hear What I Hear?
See what I see, way up in the Welcome to Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Alyssa Goss, and the one thing I love about Live Oak is our willingness and ability to roll with the punches. Literally everything about this service went wrong already this morning. And if you can't tell, that's what I love about this church. I'd like to welcome any guests that we have today. If this is your first time here, please stop by the visitors table so we can meet you and answer any questions you might have. As part of our mission, we want to enhance the connections between each of us and also with the outside world. You can stay connected with everything happening at Live Oak through our weekly email newsletter. There is a link on our homepage. And during this worship service, no need to put your phone away, but please put it on silent right now. We encourage you to post on social media things you hear today, maybe even an invitation for a friend to join you next week. Today, our chalice at Live Oak is being lit by Oliver Goss. You'll have to excuse him, he's 14. And now, in here at home, let us light this chalice with these words. We light this chalice with hearts full of flexibility, grace, forgiveness, and spontaneity of spirit. This is a congregation bound not by creed but by covenant. May those in agreement affirm this covenant now. Is it going to be on the screen? We affirm a caring community of and for all ages, seeking wisdom, doing service, and living with integrity. In our diversity, our covenant holds us in unity as we celebrate our shared spiritual journey.
And speaking of covenants, yes, twice in 1 month, we are going to welcome new members. All right. It's a special day in the life of our congregation. We are being transformed as we welcome new members who are going to bring new ideas, new desires, new energies, new opportunities to us. And we are going to share our ideas and desires and energies and projects with them. Our covenant securely grounds us, but also resonates with new life. As George K. Beach put it, people don't join covenanted communities. Rather, they constitute it. There is no it without them. And each time new folks join, the whole is literally reconstituted.
So I'm going to ask Joe McEwen and Jen Darosay to come up, please, to the chancel. They have met all the requirements for membership, and we're really excited to have them join, and especially just before the year ends.
We extend a special welcome to the children of the new member. We celebrate you, and we're really glad you're here. Today, the identity of all members, old and new, is changing. This congregation gets a new identity because you change us. We are now your church, and you change because you can add a member of Live Oak to who you are. Simply put, with these promises we make to each other, you become ours, and we become yours. Will the members of this congregation please stand in body or spirit and join me in our words of commitment. We, the members of Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church, welcome you into membership. We promise to walk along with you in your spiritual journey, to work together with you to strengthen this liberal religious community, and to make our vision for a just and peaceful world come alive. Will the new members please say your words?
We pledge with our hands and hearts to contribute to the common good of this liberal religious community and to join in the spirit of love, reason, and freedom that we find here. We join you in the mission to embrace joy, enrich connections, encourage growth, and empower dreams.
On behalf of the membership team, I want to welcome you to Live Oak, and I hope that all of you can sit down now if you'd like, and hope that all of you will get to know them and look forward to the newsletter when there'll probably be some brief bios about them. So, let's see.
So let us welcome these new members into our fold. Let us give them the best of our tradition, who we have been and who we are today. But let us also open ourselves to the way in which they are going to teach us, transform us, and share in the construction of the community that together we are becoming. Neither church nor its members are perfect. If you hang around here long enough, one of two things, and possibly both, may happen. Eventually, the church may disappoint you, or you may disappoint the church. A time may come that we fail to act or respond to something you are sure we should have. A time may come when you can't do something the church asks of you. It's not that what happened isn't important. It is. But what is most important is what happens next. As long as we live in covenanted community, seeking right relations, our commitment to each other will be strengthened, and we will grow as individuals as a healthy community.
So we have a gift bag for your family. And inside your gift bag is going to be a small chalice, because at Live Oak it's important that what happens here does not stay here. We hope that you will always find ways to keep the chalice burning bright in your home and in your heart. So if you exit that way, Becky, our wonderful membership team leader, has your gift. And the rest of us are going to give heartfelt applause.
A special part of Unitarian Universalist Sunday service is a time of shared joy and sorrow. I think of it as a time when we keep vigil for one another, when we give one another the gift of being present to those among us who have had a special milestone in their own personal lives during the previous week, some particular joy or sorrow that is important for the congregation to know. And today, Dan Scott and family wants to thank everyone for their love and support during our difficult time. As we have a special joy to celebrate as a church as well, and as a religion, thank you, members of Live Oak. We have overwhelmingly voted to add the 8th principle to our UU principles. It will read, "We, the member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions." Our adoption of this principle affirms our commitment to making our hearts, mind, and church and community a place where everyone is welcome and no one suffers oppression. Success in this commitment will require something from each of us. May we grow together in love. Our diversity, equity, and inclusion team will be offering a range of opportunities in the new year to facilitate this growth. Please be generous with your talents and your time and your gifts as we create our beloved community. Now, often what is heavy on our hearts are our fears that we have fallen short. We know we have left undone those things we ought to have done, and we have done those things we have ought not to have done. May we have the courage to be honest with ourselves, the willingness to make amends, and the compassion to accept forgiveness from others and from ourselves, trusting in the assurance that imperfection is expected and love is the guiding and healing force in which we align our lives.
And now would you please rise in body or in spirit, for it came upon a midnight clear.
Did you ever hear of that terrible day when Christmas was banned in every way? No vacation, no feasting, no gifts, no laughter, no games, no singing, no happy ever after. It's okay now. Sit back, dry your tears. I'll tell you the story of how over the years the UUs Saved Christmas. Brought it to these shores, put up the trees, and threw open the church doors. They put our values and traditions, some old and some new. Christmas just wouldn't be the same without UU. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Okay, maybe not that far back. Let's go back to the beginning of Christmas in what would become the United States. In the 1630s, a group of Protestant Christian conservatives, Puritans, came to the land of the indigenous Americas. These Puritans hated Catholics and everything that reminded them of Catholicism. They often referred to Catholic rituals and practices as pagan. And you know what? Sometimes those things did have pagan influences, but other times they didn't. The Reverend Increase Mathers, the Reverend Increase Mathers said that the reason people celebrate Christmas on December 25th wasn't because they were thinking that Christ was born in that month, but because the heathens, Saturnalia, was in the same time kept in Rome. I mean, he wasn't wrong, okay? But also kind of like, you say that like it's a bad thing? Now, these Christian conservatives, Puritans, wanted freedom of religion, but only for themselves. They didn't want a democracy, they wanted a theocracy with laws based on the General Court of Massachusetts Bay Colony made a law banning Christmas, the public celebration of Christmas. Congratulations, Christian conservatives, you won the war on Christmas by killing it. Well, for a little while. As the years went on, the influence of the Puritans waned. Sorry, there's supposed to be sound on that one. I should have said something. For one thing, you had many new immigrants moving into the colonies who were not Puritan. And the Puritans themselves kept splitting into conservatives and liberals, something that keeps happening today. Just look at the Methodists. Many of the liberals would come to be known as Universalists or Unitarian. and they thought that it was a fine idea to celebrate the Prince of Peace. The Universalists led the way, holding Christmas Day services in Boston in 1789. According to the historian Steve Nussbaum, in the early 19th century, it was this denomination that proselytized for Christmas more actively than any other. Which makes sense, because Universalists saw the nature as God was not judgment and vengeance, as it was for the Calvinists. No, God's nature was one of profound love, a love that would overcome everything. So to have a day celebrating love and joy was a way of spreading that message. Now, the Unitarians did follow quickly. Being the more intellectual of the denomination, they placed a high value on reason. They addressed the argument that Christ was born on December 25th. In essence, they said, who cares? Unitarian minister Reverend Aaron Bancroft had already been delivering yearly Christmas services for a couple of years. And then in 1818, he wrote, "The New Testament is not appointing anniversary services in commemoration of the birth of the Savior. If we celebrate this event, we should consider it a privilege with which we are indulged, not as a duty divinely enjoined. And should any objection to the time of the celebration on the plea that we have not conclusive proof respecting the day on which our Savior was born, our answer is, the objection on the point before us has no force. Christ the Savior was born into our world, whether we celebrate his appearance on the precise day of his birth or some other. To a religious purpose, it is circumstance of no importance." So again, who cares? Now, to celebrate Christmas, the Unitarian Universalists were fighting not just Christian conservatives, but also hoodlums. So for some time, Christmas had been a raucous event in Europe, more like Mardi Gras, characterized by social inversions, peasants demanding to eat like the rich, and children elevated to the day of power, positions of power like bishops. And they also got paid for it. Men dressed as women and vice versa, because drag has a long and illustrious history. In the U.S., though, it was a night of mischief and mayhem. And I know by looking out at some of you, you're thinking, mischief and mayhem, I am so in. But the problem is that in America, the crowds were more like Charlottesville in January 6th. There was violence against people and property and arson against black churches, and historians describe it as a riotous disorder and racial violence. The Unitarians sought to make it a family-oriented holiday, a celebration of domesticity, and the center of what would be the Christmas tree. In 1799, Unitarian writer Samuel Taylor Coleridge wrote romantically about a trip he took to Germany, where families gathered around a decorated tree and the children presented gifts to their parents. It painted a warm and wholesome picture. In 1830, Unitarian Linda Maria Childs wrote a version of the story for the publication The Little Girl's Own Book, a popular gift for children. In 1835, Unitarian writer Henry Montagu wrote a book about New England and included in the remembrance of being with a New England family on Christmas time and them having a tree with the family gathered all around, adding that she expected that surely one day this would become an established American tradition. She was a very smart woman. Now, fun fact, she did not name the family in her book because it was a family of Unitarian ministers, Reverend Charles Fullen. She was visiting him, and they were secretly meeting because they were both heavily involved in the abolition of slavery, and they were being ostracized professionally. They were meeting to plot out their next step. The moment with the Christmas tree was, according to Steve Nussbaum, a carefully planned moment of domestic peace in the midst of crisis and scandal. A friend and an abolitionist ally of both Follen and Montagu was Unitarian Catherine Marie Sedgwick, also a writer. She published a story that included a Christmas tree, where there were society people doing the fashionable and shallow holiday rounds of visiting, while in another room, the children gathered around the tree and exchanged painstakingly homemade gifts, holding that up as a superior situation. And in 1849, Unitarian Sarah Hell was the editor of the Godey's Ladies' Book, the most popular women's magazine. She published this picture of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert with their children around a Christmas tree, following that up in subsequent years with instructions of how to put and decorate your own tree. And so with that, the Christmas tree, and more importantly, a family-focused holiday, became a part of American culture. Now we were making Christmas a family holiday with attention to the children, why is that so important to Unitarians? Well, as Nasbon writes, children rearing practices were linked to theological beliefs. So whether a parent chose to beat his children, for example, or to lavish attention on them at Christmas was linked to whether or not they believed in original sin. Unitarians wanted to lavish their children with love, and at the same time, they didn't want to spoil them. And so the story that was written at the time focused on the children's inherent good nature and their generosity. One of the best examples of this comes from Unitarian Louisa May Alcott's novel, Little Women. Can you turn the volume up?
Amy, come kiss me. Thank you. Merry Christmas. How are my girls?
So hungry.
It's breakfast.
I could eat a horse.
Don't
say that, Joe. What?
What is it? Not far from here lives a poor young woman, Mrs. Hummel. Her 5 children are in one bed to keep from freezing, and there's nothing to eat. My girls, will you give them your breakfast as a Christmas present?
This was a formula that would be replicated in many other stories by other authors. Children sacrifice for others out of love and altruism and are rewarded. Christmas and children for Unitarians was completely linked. By 1848, it was common for Unitarian churches to hold holiday parties through their faith development programs. This newspaper article reports on one such event, noting, "It is wise so to associate religion with what is bright and joyous. The scenes of that evening will not be forgotten, and their memories will be helped to keep the heart fresh and tender amidst the thickening conflicts of life." Christmas was a way to affirm and promote religious values, making them central not just in the church, but in the wider community. William Ellery Channing, often called the father of U.S. Unitarianism, had caught the attention of many European intellectuals, including, in England, Charles Dickens, who came to the U.S. and met with him in 1842. When Channing died, a special memorial service was held in London in 1843, officiated by Unitarian Reverend Edward Target. Dickens attended the memorial service and was struck by this religion of reason, ethics, and compassion. He began to attend that church, and that was the year that he wrote A Christmas Carol, the story of Scrooge. Former UUA President John Bruins called it a Unitarian conversion tale. It was our value then and continues to be our values today, echoed in the words of Jacob Marley. Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. Unitarians continue to weave our values into the culture of Christmas. Authenticity is one of our values. Facing straight forward, head on, things that are hard, even when they put us in despair. And if we have to go through hell, we better not come out with our hands empty. In 1849, Unitarian Edmund Hamilton Sears was depressed and on the edge of a breakdown. The war in Europe, the Mexican-American War, and the approaching Civil War were crushing him. He sat down and he poured it all out into It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. It came upon a midnight clear, that glorious song of old, from angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace on the earth, goodwill to men, from heaven, all gracious King. He weaves in the reality of depression and hard times, but he lifts up hope. And yet, beneath life's crushing load, whose forms are bending low, who toil along the climbing way with painful steps and slow. Look now, for glad and golden hours come swiftly on the wings. Oh, rest beyond the weary road and hear the angels sing. By the way, a bit of more trivia for you. This song has been frequently controversial in conservative corners because it leaves out one important character, Jesus. And it's all about the angels and their song. The Congregationalist hymnologist Eric Rotel sneered that in its original form, the hymn is little more than an ethical song extolling the worth and splendor of peace among men. He said it like it was a bad thing. A little bit later, it would be personal despair that would drive Unitarian Henry Wadsworth Longfellow to leave his mark on Christmas. His wife had died tragically in a fire, and his oldest son was severely wounded in the Civil War. He wrote, "I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carol play, and mild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men." He then talks of cannons drowning out that song of those Christmas bells. And in the following verse, his despair and his bitterness and his cynicism just all come out. "And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth," I said, "for hate is strong, and it mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill toward men." But then something else has the final say. "Then pled the bells more loud and deep, God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fell, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill towards men." Love one. O Holy Night is such a big story. It involves a church organ, a gun accident, a socialist atheist, a Jewish composer, and a Unitarian with stage fright. Well, this is your commercial to tune into our Christmas Day service next Sunday, online only, so you can stay in your pajamas, where Reverend Joanna will go into more detail about that story. You do not want to miss it, neither do I. But let me share this part. This song, as we know it, it's because of Unitarian John Sullivan Dwight. He heard the French version, and when his abolitionist heart heard the words, "He sees a brother where he was only a slave," he knew he had to translate it and bring it to the United States. And in doing so, with the third verse, he was even more clear about his abolitionist leanings. "Truly, he taught us to love one another. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Chains shall break. For the slave is our brother, and his name all oppression shall cease." We have a history of Unitarians being in the news, and that includes artists who, before photography, drew pictures for the newspaper. One such artist was Unitarian Thomas Nast, a German refugee, who drew pictures of Santa Claus and shared them with the world. Nast also broke the news that Santa was not neutral on matters of morality. He was anti-slavery, And this picture of him visiting, and this is a picture of him visiting the Union soldiers. Nass would go on to share some 33 illustrations of Santa published in the Harper's Weekly. Trivia time. What Unitarian is mentioned in the song Sleigh Ride? No, y'all don't know either. Nathaniel Courier. Thomas Nass was not the only Unitarian creating visual pictures associated with Christmas. Nathaniel Courier worked in lithography and partnered with James Marriott Ivins to create the company Courier and Ives. They boasted that they created the best, cheapest, and most popular pictures in the world. It was the art for the masses, and they were proud to produce it. Christmas continued through the years to be a time of celebration for Unitarians and Universalists. The holiday fairs, the turkey dinners, the worship services, pageants, plays. Even in the modern times, we are still shaping Christmas. In October 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis was happening. Weighed down with the worries of Unitarian Universalist Noel Rigel was walking home when he saw two mothers with their babies in strollers. He said, the babies were looking at each other and smiling, and all of a sudden, my mood was extraordinary. He got home, sat down, wrote the lyrics, and handed them to his wife, Gloria Shine, who wrote them in a tune. She said, we couldn't make it through. It just broke us up. And those words still resonate today as we think of those with power and privilege who are often shielded from the realities of the world. In your palace, warm, mighty king, do you know what I know? Christmas is a time for myth, but one of the damaging and untrue myths is that Christmas belongs to Christian conservatives, and that they have always been trying to protect it from liberals. The truth is, it was the religious liberals who saved Christmas, who brought it back from being an illegal event and infused it with our liberal values, creating a holiday that was deliberately intergenerational with a focus on generosity, love, peace, joy, and beloved community. So, raise your glass and be of good cheer. Christmas has come round for another year. The UUs of old made it what it is today. To them we give a toast and gratefully say, thank you for Scrooge. Thank you for the tree. Thank you for Santa's smile and gathering family. Thank you for creating this generous season. Love, it turns out, is the best sort of reason. Now I invite you in a time of reflection in word and in silence with these words by Unitarian Universalist Elwood R. Stovall. Eternal Spirit, who lives from age to age, and not just in this holiday season, let us borrow from the energy of this time to sustain our dreaming, not only of the world which might be, but of the people who might be in such a world. Help us to recognize the gift of the season, and let us not forget the harsh realities of life, symbolized by the twins against whom Scrooge was warned, want and ignorance. But let us also, like Scrooge, see the hand of the future pointing toward hope into a time when the blessing of the holiday will be shared throughout the year. We understand also that much of the best of who we are has its source in such imaginings. Help us to use the best of ourselves in a way that are worthy of blessings. And let us learn the lessons of Christmas, so it may be said of us as it was of Scrooge, we know how to keep Christmas well. So let it be. Let us hold that in sacred silence. Amen, and blessed be.
I'm about to do the offering, but first, a fun fact. Louisa May Alcott was definitely gender nonconforming, liked to be called Lou, and was possibly a trans man. All right, look it up, it's true. We are the tradition of the Free Church. Our church and our community outreach are supported not from an outside source, but from within. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. We share what is offered every week with an organization that upholds our Unitarian Universalist values. This month, we are helping to empower the dream of Lone Star Circle of Care. Their services include primary care for all ages, obstetric, gynecological care, eyeglasses, dentistry, behavioral therapy, and more. They operate 26 different locations, including Cedar Park and Round Rock, and more than 100,000 individuals receive care through LSCC annually. You can learn more about its programs at www.lonestarcares.org. May an offering be received in gratitude and in love.
Good morning. I would like to invite you to the Faith Development Hour. This morning we have Tim Buckley hosting, facilitating Voices from the Movement in room 105. It starts promptly at 11:05 so that we have time to have our discussion. Also, the kids and teens will be upstairs in room 205 where we will be doing a little solstice activity and having some refreshments for Christmas. Thank you. We hope to see you.
Now please rise as you are willing and able for our closing hymn 240, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day.
Christmas Day, there
I invite everyone to join us back here on Christmas Eve night at 6 p.m. for our candlelight Christmas service. And then on Sunday, Christmas morning, stay at home, keep your pajamas on, and turn on our Christmas service at 10 a.m. There will be a link on our website. May you know joy beyond measure and distribute love extravagantly, even assured that on hard days, life is a blessing.
We're going to extinguish the chalice now. Let us say these words to each other. We extinguish this chalice flame, daring to carry forward the vision of this free faith, that freedom, reason, and justice will one day prevail in this nation and across the earth.